Fresh out the shower, 311, Dead by Daylight reviews. Uh, Yesterday went over a fairly hefty one. Wasn't good, wasn't bad, the usual. Today I'm gonna hop in, do a couple of reviews, and I'm gonna throw the idea of possibly playing Dead by Daylight. Obviously I'm not gonna have chat out or up while I'm playing Dead by Daylight. That's the only caveat. So I mean, enjoy, the game while it lasts. Enjoy watching it, things like that. But I won't be responding to any type of chat until after rounds. Possibly if I get hooked, but we don't want that. Anyway, I want to do at least an hour's worth of reviews if there's anything worth going over. The Kandarian demon, Ash versus the Evil Dead. Ash is already in the game, so you want the demon pulled into the game as well. Which, I mean, to be fair, Ash did get thrown into the game kind of randomly. I mean, yeah, we all seen Ash coming because, I mean, he is the, I want to say the hunter of his time, but that's not the correct statement. He is known for the horror movie genre and all that back in that day. He was one of the more popular characters. If you didn't know who Ash was, people were like, the hell are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? For those of you that don't know, Ash is actually missing one of his hands, and he has, a hook attachment and a shotgun attachment, which he's known for, that goes on that particular hand, etc., etc. Super badass guy. I mean, look up the lore. I've seen the movie that he's been in. I think he's been in more than one movie, but I've seen a movie that he's been in. So that's about the most I know of that, and I've seen that years ago. Years ago. Like back in childhood. Um, what is this? What is this? So this person wants a demon from that particular book brought forth. It's a true form as a giant monster with a head similar to a giant rotten apple and all of that. I'm not actually going to go over this because this is terrible. It's absolutely positively just terrible. Yeah, no. I just skimmed through. No, you only have two posts and you've already fucked up. Go look at some other people's posts. That's actually one of the worst things that I've ever seen. But we're gonna move on. No, I'm not going over that. Holy hell. You come in, you only got two posts, and two posts probably both on your same. You posting and then you commenting on your particular post or changing something. Don't do that. Look around, look at the forum. I wish they had some sort of blocker to where you had to participate in the actual forum for like, 2 weeks before you can post to force people to build up, an accumulation of time or something like that. Maybe a week's worth of time before you can post and do things like that because that's no, that's just so god dang just disgusting. Anyway, another guy with only one post. Let's see how shit this one is. The Grand Masquerade. We have a copyrighted picture with no sight of sources, so the mods are probably gonna tell him to take this shit down. You done already fucked up. You're also pulling him from what seems to be an already situational game that has to deal with things like this. Yeah. I don't know what game this is from. If you guys know, then so be it. But you're already pulling it from a game. He's already in a game that has to deal with things like that, whether it's like a castle defense game or whether it's a horror game or something like that. He's already part of that. Why would they pull him and put him in another game? It's kind of one of the reasons why Jason Voorhees isn't in Dead by Daylight, because he has his own Friday the 13th game. You know what I'm saying? There's no point in having a terror style, like game and then bring people over into it if they already have their own game and everything. This also is just more bullshit than it is actual content. You have, why is Rancor one of the first things? Why are you looking at Rancor, Devourer of Hope, No One Escapes Death? Oh, you're trying to change every perk. And you're essentially nerfing. Yeah. You are essentially nerfing every good perk that ever helps a killer. And you're buffing every perk that helps a survivor. This is trash. You have all of this bullshit listed. This is trash. It's not relevant. You have all of this bio, lore, and everything like that. Look how long this shit is. That's trash. Summarize it. I do not care the entire story or the entire video or whatever in which this character comes from. The only thing I care about is a little bit about them, how the entity, kidnapped them, things like that. And keep it short, like the backstory for the main characters and things like that. Keep it short. If you want to see what this particular person's background is, you play the whatever perspective game they come from, and you can learn about them that way, or you can look them up on a wiki or watch the games, play the videos, look up the information, things like that. If you want this huge ass backstory, we don't need all of this. That is like the first two chapters of a book. You shouldn't be trying to change core mechanics of the game and rewriting random perks that you don't agree with. The game is already balanced for that shit. And trust me, anything that you think you can add to this and one up behavior, you're probably not going to be able to, especially with the whole measly one post that you've done. You've broken a lot of copyright rules. Picture wise, you've copied a lot of things from the game and redid perks for extra girth to your particular, well, not girth, it's a terrible word to use, but to bulk up this entire post. Again, I'm a reviewer. We go through this shit, we look at it, and we see what it's worth. You're not going to be able to pull the eyes over a reviewer's head and make us say, oh, this is long. Oh, this looks good. Look how well this is, thought out and things like that and all of this other stuff. No, you're not going to get that type of happy response that you get from people that actually review the game. You're not going to get a happy response from behavior. And then this, I'm just curious. If I copy this and paste this, it's not going to pull something up word for word, is it? I hope not. I'm hoping none of these books right here have anything to do with that, and I'm hoping it's not a word for word copy from a particular book. It wouldn't be bad if all of this was, off the top of your head, just lore that you invented on your own. Also, actually, nah, forget the also. But you did put a lot more time into writing this lore than you did the entirety of the post. So if we cut out all of this BS here, rewriting the perks, we cut out all of this BS about the map. If you're not going to put a map drawn out showing or going with this particular descriptions, because there should be a map posted above this or below this and have the descriptions for the different areas and have it drawn out and shit like that, don't bother putting descriptions for what the maps are going to look like. There's no point. You can tell me all of these other details about how things look and how the area around it looks, and you can explain it in like a 1,000-page essay. Guess what? If I don't have any reference points to put those, it's not going to help. Because you still have to have the Dead by Daylight set pieces. You have to have the totems, the generators, the chest, etc., spawned in. You're going to have unique everything. You're going to have some sort of specialty that your map has that makes it stand out from everything. Even a shit map like RPD still has special things about it that makes it stand out. Make a map. Maybe take half the time you took writing the lore and produce a map that goes along with this if you want to go this route. If not, it's useless. We take this out. Maurice, we take this out. I've already cut away most of that. We go up, we shorten this to about maybe there-ish, maybe a little more. We'll go about there. And from everything from where I cut there and down can be taken completely out of this post. Then we have all of these other things. Let's see. Add-ons. Let's see. Your add-ons are not separated at all into any type of system. I'm going to assume this is a shit add-on, and at the bottom, these are iridescent add-ons. Well, I can't even tell where the fucking bottom is. There, iridescent calico. You have one iridescent thing. And that's the only thing that you threw out was one iridescent that was marked. What about the rest of the things that I'm not going to look through because it's all in the same format? Bolden, italicize. I mean, you did well italicizing everything that was being spoken. Cool. Why isn't this anywhere separate? Why aren't your categories separate? Like I said, if you're going to take the time to go and make everything look fancy and go out of your way writing all of this stuff, you need to, one, categorize it so it's in a very good order. You also need to make sure you go through the full step. If you're not going to walk through the door completely, what's the point of opening the door? Most people on this forum look at the door and they say, nah, I don't think I'm going to go through there, Chief. And they put up shit reviews. Other people will walk up, they'll grab the door, twist the handle, and open the door part way, and they say, you know what? I really don't want to get involved with this. Some people, like yourself, throw the door open and jump about halfway through the doorway and stand in the doorway and they go, nah, this is good enough. And then they turn around and they walk away. You're just as bad as the person that never opened the doorway. You were curious enough to where you wanted to see what was inside the doorway, but you didn't have that, temperance or confidence or whatever you were missing, the wherewithal to walk into the doorway and go farther in. Guess what every scenario that I listed equates to? Failure or a lack thereof something. You could say that the person that looked at the door and said, hell no, would be the wisest one because they're not wasting a lot of time. They looked at the door, they said, hey, this door's kind of scary. They left their gift at the door and then they walked the hell on. You took the time to climb up the stairs, throw the door open, and even step halfway through the doorway, and then you said fuck it and turned around. It's a waste. The waste of talent. The waste of ability. You could have done anything else in your life. You could have buffed this up to be an amazing concept. However, you stopped part way through because you either got tired of it or something else. It's not met. And when I do reviews, I look at how much effort goes into something and I do a review of it. If somebody spends 5 seconds on something, but they end up putting up something decent, I'm going to give it, an acknowledgement of, hey, you did well with the limited amount of time and effort you put into this. Maybe you can do this, that, and that to make this better. If you spend 6 months on something, like for example, behavior, spending time releasing new killers and all of that, and it comes out shit and not really usable and all of that, and it, you know, things like that, I'm going to judge you quite harshly because you had more time to work on this particular concept. More effort's been put into it, so I expect higher quality. If you tell two people, a shoe crafter, a master crafter of shoes, and you give an average Joe that's never made a shoe in his life with a book, and you look at them both and you say, you got an hour to make a shoe as best you can. If the guy that doesn't know about shoes with a book manages to make, let's say a clog, a wooden clog out of everything because they didn't want to fuck with the adhesive, so they just fucking carved the clog out. Very mediocre looking. I'm gonna say, hey, that's not bad. And then the shoe master and all of that, if he put out the same work as somebody who didn't know what the fuck they were doing, you're gonna say, what the fuck? You've been doing this all your life. You should have been able to put together a sandal, a croc, or something in that time. You know what I'm saying? This is the comparison that I'm going for here. You had a lot of time to write and do all of this, but what you have here is just a story. There is barely anything that actually pertains to the game. And between things that pertain to the game, you have so much fucking wording that it just bores. Like, it bores people. Like, I don't even want to go through and read everything that's here because you have so much. You're not keeping it entertaining. You're not keeping it, unique or anything like that. You're just giving me lore to something that I don't even know about. You're not even making me want to, learn about the particular things. I'm already halfway through my scroll wheel right about now, and we're just now getting to, so half of this contains the perks and everything else. The other half can basically just be dropped off for the most part. Then we go to the top. You have this gigantic ass picture that takes up all of this space from there to there. Then you have another picture that's decent size. It fits at least on one scroll. So from there all the way to there is just wasted space with no sources. So Mandy's definitely going to clap them cheeks. So don't expect your post to stay up for too long because a mod is going to reprimand you for not posting a source, even if it's clickable. So this can be shortened and put to the left or middle or whatever. This can be made smaller. This can be made smaller and condense. You wrote something out magnificent wise, but you need to cut the chaff, or cut the chafe, and condense it to make it better. Just because you envision something doesn't mean it needs to be added in. Or something you added in that takes up too much space needs to be further condensed so people don't get bored. So you got a mask, and then you have a random ass survivor from whatever the hell Hero Forge is. I guess that might be considered a copyright, sort of like a watermark, if that's what the game it's from. So this picture might be fine. This one's going to need a source. Also, if the chapter idea is the Grand Masquerade, why are you showing me a picture of a masquerade mask? All big and shit like that. What about the actual killer? Unless the killer is the mask. If that's so, you should start to put things about the killer underneath it. You don't want to introduce the killer, then the survivor, then go on with the survivor's perks and all of that, then switch to lore, then switch to killer, then switch to this and that. Don't make sense. But without further ado, now that the small criticizes and things like that are out of the way, I'm gonna hop into this and start tearing it apart. I took 20 minutes to go over that because this thing is so fucking long. The Grand Masquerade. Survivor is Ewan Morgan. Edward Morgan. Why does Edward Morgan, not Ewan, but Edward Morgan pop something in my brain? I don't know. Ewan Morgan. All of this information. Ironheart, Grim Resolve, and Heads Up are his teachable perks. Ironheart, you've endured life's toughest trial. Even at your lowest, you know how to draw strength from determination. As soon as you have this first thing, you need to space this out and have the perk be something else. You don't want to have the introduction thing go right into the actual perk like that. Again, if somebody's coming in to check out just your perks or they're going in to check everything else out, you need to either embolden this or make this stand out because this is your perk name. The bullshit that you have that describes the perk or the little introduction to the perk needs to be separate from the perk, just like the quotes and everything from it need to be separate from that. If it has to do with the perk, fine, leave it in, but in this case, it does not. This, you have endured all of this other bullshit. This actually needs to be put above Ironheart. So this needs to be moved up above the Ironheart. And when I read Ironheart, I want to see exactly what Ironheart does. I don't care about the introduction. And when I see Ironheart, I want to see bam. When inflicted by the exhaust and status effect, you drop pallets and bolt 9% faster. Hitting a killer with a pallet when Ironheart is active, stun them for an additional 3 seconds. That's what I want to see. Right next to the Ironheart, which is emboldened or somehow sticks out. Whether it's all caps, whether it's emboldened, whether it's both, something like that to make it pop. Now, looking at the perk that on its own, this don't make sense. When you were inflicted by the exhaustion status effect, you are exhausted. You somehow manage to drop pallets faster and you manage to vault things faster. That don't make sense from a human being standpoint. Do you not know what the word exhausted means? There's a reason why they feel exhausted after doing perks like sprint burst and things like that. You're doing, an extreme action, and then you're feeling the exhaust and status effects from it, because that's how the entity realms works. Everything is exaggerated. So why the heck should you have the ability to drop pallets faster and vault things faster? Faster than even spine chill, by the way. Then also have the ability to stun a killer for an extra 3 seconds off of a pallet stun. That is ridiculous. So not only are they not ever going to be able to get you through when you're vaulting windows and things like that, they also, if they get stunned by a pallet, they're just going to be stuck there for even longer than a decisive strike, which you only get to do one time. This perk obviously can't cause the exhaustion status effect, or you would be stuck in an infinite loop, but there is no sort of cooldown or anything else associated with it. There's no token system, there's no activation for it except for being exhausted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dead heart to a pallet stun the killer, and then I'm just going to go about my merry ass way. The killer's going to get stunned for what, in upwards of 6 seconds, and I'm just going to continue to run like it's nothing. Or even worse, I'm going to run through a pallet, use smash hit to stun the killer, get a sprint boost effect, and stun them using this particular effect chained with it to stun them for an extra 3 seconds on top of that and get the sprint burst after that, or the speed after that. This perk is way too overpowered because when you're exhausted, that's kind of your last ditch effort to escape the killer. Besides, your own wits and things about you. That's what makes the cat and mouse game interesting. You use that dead hard early, or you fuck up, or you use the dead hard to get to a window or something like that to extend the chase. The thing about a cat and mouse is either the mouse is going to get away or the cat is going to get the mouse. That's how these situations go. There is no stalemate when it comes to cat and mouse. Typically. There are some exceptions. Obviously, there's an exception to every rule. But typically, one or the other is going to win. So, Ironheart, no. Now, how it sits on its own, it cannot be accepted any type of standalone perk like that. You need to have one, a cooldown, or an activation limit per game, because you're not going to want to be able to activate this multiple times a game. It's going to be hell on earth for that particular killer. Because as long as you can exhaust yourself, you can use this. For example, also it says when afflicted by the exhaustion status effect. So, as longer you are afflicted by the exhaustion status effect, this perk is going to be in play until the exhaustion status effect goes away. So, it isn't kind of a one and done thing. You will keep this bonus the entire time you remain exhausted. So, if a killer's following you, you can just stop at every pallet, stun them, walk to the next pallet, stun them an extra 3 seconds, walk to the next pallet, stun them an extra 3 seconds, and so on and so forth. Again, imagine this on a Survive with Friends, and every time you get stunned by a pallet, you have to worry about that extra 3 seconds. One, pallets are going to terrify you, and you're going to respect every pallet you run to. which means survivors are just going to keep making you respect pallets till you decide to commit and take that stun to keep getting distance on you. The killer should not be afraid of the survivor. It should be vice versa. Until our killer comes out that is made to be afraid of the said survivor. So Ironheart is a no-go, bro. It needs to be rebalanced. You need to think about things and add in cooldowns, activation, things like that, and hard limits to that perk if you want to leave it as strong as it is. Grim Resolve. Grim Resolve activates when you are on your second hook stage. So, actually, let me read the rest before I say anything. When you're injured, you no longer make noise when you do a rushed action or fall from a great height. Your grunts of pain are reduced by 75%, and you do not leave blood pools. So, no mither. Only thing you're trying to do there is make essentially no mither activate on a second hook stage, and you're basically changing the fact that you can't get up after you're down afterwards. And while sacrificing that, you're getting an extra 25% on your grunts of pain. No mither exists for a reason. It does exactly all of this. No mither is deemed by the community the hard mode perk, and that's why no mither has only gotten, minor buffs here or there. The community is what's keeping it that way. So good luck making any perks that are similar to no mither. They're going to get rejected almost immediately. Plus, you're taking Iron Will. Essentially, let me say. Well, no, because it says you no longer make noise when you do rushed action. So that's quick and quiet. And no mither. And you're slamming them bitches together and trying to rebalance two perks into one to get a more usable no mither. Not going to work. No, absolutely not. Then we move on to Heads Up. Getting chased by the killer grants you a token every 10 seconds. Why is it that every other goddamn post that I look at has this activation? Getting chased by a killer grants you a token every 10 seconds. Do you realize how many tokens you're going to have at the end of a regular chase in Dead by Daylight? You're going to have a shit ton. Each token makes your scratch marks disappear 2, 5 seconds sooner. That's either 2.5 and fucked up, or that's I'd have to say 2.5 seconds sooner. So for every 10 seconds that you draw out a chase, your scratch marks are going to disappear 2.5 seconds sooner. You can gain a maximum of 4 tokens. You realize that 2.5 times 4 equals 10 seconds, aka the max amount of time that scratch marks stay up. Even if you use lightweight or whatever the hell the perk's called, that only gives you 2 seconds off the top. Might be 3. But 2 seconds off the top of how long your scratch marks stay visible. Why are you trying to incorporate that part? Oh, wait, there's more. But wait, there's more. The 4th token grants you the haste status effect, moving at an increased speed of 7%. So now you get bloodlust, essentially. When you break from a chase, you'll lose your token progressively every 5 seconds. That makes no sense. So if you are in a chase for more than 40 seconds, you get a increased speed of 7%. Data set survivors move at 4 meters per second. 10% of that's 0.4. So half of that would be 0.5. So you're looking at 0.2 something. Or 0.3. Let's just say 0.3 extra speed on top of that. So you'll be moving at 4.3 meters per second. Most killers move at 4.6 except for a range killer. So if you're going up against a range killer, you're going to be moving 0.1 meters per second slower than that particular ranged killer. Think about that. And think about the calculations that you're doing the other killers and all of that. And the speeds difference and things like that. And how behaviors incorporated perks that increase or decrease speed. And balance this equation to that. Think about how many effects you have stacking together in one perk. There's a reason why you have 4 different perk slots. That gives you a hell of a range to make a build to play Dead by Daylight with. You shouldn't be trying to get an entire build off of one perk. That is ridiculous and that is ludicrous. You should not be doing things like that. So no, absolutely not. Do some research, learn the game mechanics, learn how to properly balance before you go around making your own chapter. um, Huge line of lore that nobody really is going to look at, especially because you've pulled them from random places. Unless it's like League of Legends or some shit, but if that's the case, people probably already know the lore, so there's that as well. We have the Prince. None of this matters. 4.6 meters per second, tear radius 32 meters. Height, you either use tall, medium, or small, or you can use short or some variant of the word. Do not say 2M06 or 2 meters 6 centimeters. Don't do that. Don't do that. Tall, medium, short. Very simple. His weapon is a long sword. I don't know why he pulled a picture of his long sword. There's one right here. We already see. He has a long sword, he has a crow, he has a mask, the suit, and he's standing by skulls on a platform. We can see all of this here. We can even see the gem if you want to use any type of power that comes from that gem. All of that there. Why are you including another picture of the weapon we just seen? Same with the crow. Why are you showing us another picture of the crow that we can see right here? Wasting quite a bit of space. This shit's already long enough. Stop wasting space. Power. Demioravians? Demio? Or however you pronounce it. Again, you got all of this flavor text, but you're not telling me what this power does. This is pointless, useless. His power are ravens. That's all you've told me. You don't tell me what the actual power does. And this pisses me off more than anything when you have people that do this. The power. The power's name is this. Here's a description of the power, but it doesn't tell you anything about what the power does or its usability or anything like that. That just pisses me off. You've wasted my time. Menu animation, who cares? Endgame animation, who cares? You haven't even told me about the goddamn power yet. You're telling me about all of this other bullshit that I don't care about. Then he goes and throws in another power. Which then again, right after that, he says that. Doesn't tell me anything. This is another description which could have been already put up there and I already went into this. Does not matter. Basic crows on maps are joined by ravens. They fewer in number but bigger, more aggressive than their cousins. Instead of flying away, they will aggressively caw at them. I thought that was going to be aggravatingly crawl at them, but aggressively crawl at them. 50% chance to make a survivor scream given away. This is the same as the fucking druid thing that I went over yesterday. It is the same shit. The only difference is the survivor or the raven calls the incapacitated status effect and reveal aura and do a whole bunch of OP things. Stop it. Get some help. No, I don't even have to go through this to say that it's fucked up and needs to be redone. Stop wasting my time. At least I'm going to stop wasting my time. The killer can teleport to raid different ravens that isn't actively attacking a survivor. Okay. Once you teleport, the raven. Okay, this is just fucking Sadako's stats pasted over. Instead of TVs, you pasted her stats for a raven. You didn't even put any fucking effort into this. All of this shit's been copy and pasted or pulled from something else. You have this whole thing that's just full of different people's works combined into one shitty ass post because none of this is your original work. None of it. This is disgraceful. I'm not going to go any farther. This whole post just needs to be deleted. You've literally, every single piece of this, all of this, all of the lore, all of this other bullshit are just animations and different things that come from different sources. And somebody, well, you probably voted your own self up, if that's possible. Let's be honest here. It's all stolen content. Again, looks nice. It's nice and long and thick and takes a while to go down and read and all of that, but none of that work is yours. We want to see what you're capability of. I don't care about the game developers and everything else. They've already put their work out and people said they liked it or not. We want to see what your creative thought process is, etc., etc. Not somebody else's. It's disgraceful. You're like Ryan the NCR. You literally, like, could be his sister, brother, whatever the hell you are. Relative. Such a disappointment. Random fan made chapter. Well, you don't want to say mature audience and make that a part of your perk. You really need to look at your you need to pay attention to what you call things. Dead by Daylight, yeah, it has its own tag and all of that, and its own rating and all of that. But naming something mature audience is going to be very sus to people. Very suspicious. It's going to raise flags in people that they really didn't really need raised for them. But anyway, Asahai Tanaka. I've heard that name before too. At least it's familiar. Medical physician. Not the dude from Sword Art, is it? Nah, I don't know. Where do I know this from? I know that name from something. I don't know. Maybe I'm speaking out my ass. MA. When one gen is completed, this perk becomes activated for 60 seconds. The next time you stun the killer, automatically blinds them without a flashlight. How about instead of giving survivors one free blind when you stun a killer, why not just do the same thing with Blast Mine, but make that available on specific palettes? But instead of making it, the same to where, you just walk up and activate it and it stuns the killer as they go to do something, make it to where it takes time for you to install said blast mine into a palette, and make it to where you get one per gen completion. So you don't just automatically get a blind once per generator. Again, think about 4 different survivors running this particular perk. One gen gets completed, they all gang bang a generator, whatever, killer walks over. Bam! Pallet thrown in front of them, blinded. Killer chases somebody else, bam! Pallet thrown in front of them, blinded. And every time they chase a new survivor, they're going to have to deal with the fucking kaboomers. Blast mine ain't too bad because you can only blast mine one at a time. You get hit by a blast mine, bam! It stuns you for a little bit, then you just re-kick the generator and go on. There isn't going to be any bullshit to where you can continuously get blast mined over and over. Generators are spread far apart, and generally after getting blast mined, you're going to search the area and all that, and then go back to doing what you're doing. Blast mine also only activates, well, it can only activate like once a generator, generally, unless you let that generator go all the way the fuck back down and then re-up it, which would be weird to let a generator go down to get more blast mine. But you generally can only get it once a generator. And it also goes away in time, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah. Another thing is, it's only activated for 60 seconds after a gen is completed. So, unless the killer is actively not chasing somebody, then what's the point? You know? At the end of the match, yes, it's kind of strong because if the killer's after you, you can stun them and then run towards an exit gate and get a little bit of distance to maybe make it to the next loop or anything like that. However, during the game, it's literally just a blind. Blinding does not stop the killer from making any types of actions or moves. And where most people fuck up at is they don't even go for the double blind. If you pallet stun the killer and then blind them as they're kicking the pallet, by the time they get done kicking the pallet, they're unblinded. So there's no point in blinding them unless you go for a double blind, and you see the mistake all the time. You'll see a survivor pallet stun a killer, blind them, and then run away in a direction. The killer will break the pallet, then immediately get back and chase with that survivor, and it's like they did nothing but waste the amount of time they could have gotten away because the killer still went right back up to them and re-got back into a chase with them. You want to blind them once to set up the chain blind, And as soon as they finish breaking the pallet, you want to blind them again. And that's if you're running, a good beamer that gives you a good couple of seconds of movement. If not, you're better off dropping the pallet, trying to get a stun, and then just running off because you're just wasting time standing there. Multiple blinds or chain blinds is the way to go. You blind them. When they break the pallet, you blind them again. If they try to listen and follow you, you chain blind them again. And you keep punishing them anytime they look your particular direction, which will let you to get around them, get away from them, do whatever you need to do. And anytime they try to look at you or try to use their ears to find you, bam, chain blind, chain blind, chain blind. They're instantaneous. Chain blind, chain blind, chain blind. It don't matter if they can hear you, if they can't see where they're aiming at, you can be hiding behind an obstacle. If they hear you, they're going to swing, they're going to hit said obstacle. Keep something in between you and keep it to where you can move around them and keep them from looking at you. And you can waste a shit ton of time till they decide to look up, which at that time gives you the ability to run around or go do wherever you need to go to, or hide, or do whatever the hell you need to do. If you bring a flashlight, if this perk is active or not, blindness to the killer being blinded by your flashlight takes 0.5 to 1.5 seconds longer. So running this perk, if you run a flashlight with this perk, you are severely crippled. What kind of bullshit is that? And the more you level up this perk, the longer it takes to get a successful blind on a killer. Okay, then. Good talk. Absolutely not. Total discussion. Your perk is weak by base and really doesn't do much for you. And you're going to nerf your perk by making flashlight binds harder if you do bring a flashlight. That don't make sense, dude. Again, that I say every day that I do a review. Why would I give up Dead Hard or any other meta perk for this particular perk? It has no uses. It has no pull. Not very strong. Not very useful. Also, I hate when survivors are listed first because after I go through the killer, I'm going to have to look at the killer stats and then look at the survivor stats to see if the survivor's made to counter the killer. Putting survivor first isn't a good idea because, well, one, you're going to want to get people's attention and things like that. So you should start off with, killer information anyway, because Dead by Daylight is, hey, you play as the killer, cat and mouse type game. Don't put what you prefer, put whatever's popular first. Two, like I said, I'm going to have to read through all of these survivors perks, go to the killer's perks, and then scroll back up to the survivors perks to do a full review on this. If it's in proper order, and I can just scroll down, look at the killer's information, look at the killer's perks, and then take the killer and survivor's perks and compare them together, and then take the survivor and the killer and compare them together. It makes it a lot easier. The way this is set up, you have perks, power, perks, lore. If the lore is at the bottom or the lore is at the top, doesn't matter. If it's top or bottom, doesn't matter. But because of the way all of this is together, I have to get on the discussion of perks. Up off the discussion. Oh, well, there's more lore here. So I gotta get on the discussion of perks. I skip lore, so get on the discussion of the killer's power. then get back on the discussion of perks again. That's not something that you want to do. When I talk about perks, I want to see the killer's perks, which should be the end, and then immediately go into the survivor's perks so I can have a direct one-to-one comparison. And it helps even more if I have the survivor's perks at the bottom, because then I can immediately go over the killer's power and what I've just read about the killer's power and the perks together, and then run the survivor against it for a one-to-one comparison to see if they're a good match for each other. Doing it like this just makes things kind of dumb, but here we are. Anyway, total discussion. After healing survivor, this perk becomes active. You will gain a token. If healing this obsession, if you will gain a token. See, that's very bad wording. I'm understanding what you're saying after reading it twice. If you heal the obsession, you get a token. If you don't, doesn't matter. If the survivor is not the obsession, you will not gain a token. You can word that to be a lot better, and you can really shorten this sort of long sentence that you have going on here, or paragraph. But instead, you heal them 30% faster the next time they are injured. But once per survivor, that is not the obsession. If you heal the obsession, you gain a token. And you repeated yourself. More than I repeat myself. Each token increases injured survivors' moving speed by 2%. Oh boy. Each time you heal the obsession, you stop gaining 5% haste at 7 tokens. None of that shit made any type of fucking sense towards the end. If you heal the obsession, you get a token. If not, the perk activates. And you heal them 30% faster the next time they are injured. Now, but only once per survivor, that is not the obsession. So this only works once on them. If you heal the obsession, you gain a token. And each token that you gain increases injured survivors' moving speed by 2% each time you heal the obsession. Then you stop gaining 5% haste at 7 tokens. Brother, 2% per token at 7 tokens would be 14%. Where in the absolute fuck are you getting a 5% value at 7 tokens? Somebody please show me this backwater math that I'm supposed to be getting from this. That's actually scratching my brain in a way that's making me kind of get a little bit upset and angry here. Why not make it simple? Make it an obsession perk. Anytime you heal the obsession, survivors get a 2% haste. Make it last for an X amount of time. That's it. Very simple. Because one, permanent haste boost and all of that don't, they aren't very savvy for a particular cat and mouse game. Getting a temporary haste status effect is fine, but getting a permanent one that keeps stacking. Because, I mean, obviously, there's no penalty for the obsession that gets sacrificed. So, if the obsession runs the killer, and as the obsession goes down, they just unhook the obsession and they heal the obsession. Or if the obsession's a damn good runner and he gets into a chase, takes a hit, and then the other survivors help him escape and another one heals him, you can just keep stacking and stacking and stacking and stacking. I think this might have been 5% haste at the beginning, and he changed it to 2% haste there and didn't change it to 2% haste there. 14% haste speed is ridiculous for a survivor. 10% again is an extra zero point 0.4. So you're looking at zero point 0.4 plus a little under half, so 1 point something. So you're looking at, let's just say zero point 0.5 to make things easy. If they get max tokens, the killer, a regular killer, is only going to be 0.1 meters per second faster than you are. And if it's a range killer, you can easily outscale them and get to their speed or even faster than what they are for the remainder of the particular match. Again, there's no penalty for the obsession being sacrificed. Also, keep in mind for any type of obsession, transferring perks like decisive and all of that. Then, if you throw in gank squads and survive with friends that would obviously take advantage and exploit this particular perk, you have a very nasty concoction that's going to make a lot of killers straight up rage quit. You're literally going to have survivors that are the obsession throwing themselves at the killer, then using decisive strike and, other heal perks and things like that, and med kits and etc., to get the fastest type of heals possible. And they're going to exploit the hell out of that till they're faster than the killer, or at least as fast as, and that killer's not going to be able to catch the goddamn survivor. They're in third person. If the killer's only going 0.1 meters per second faster than the survivor and stuck in first person, that killer's going to have to hug every wall fucking perfectly, or they're going to continue to lose distance on that survivor that's in third person and can take their time cutting corners accurately. Not a good perk. It needs to be very much redone. It's heavily exploitable. And then MD helps. When healing a survivor, this perk becomes activated for 75 seconds. It only takes 16 seconds to heal them. What kind of perk do you need an activation of 75 seconds? When they become injured again, they gain the endurance status effect up until the killer hits them or is fully healed again. That makes no fucking sense. No fucking sense. When healing a survivor, this perk becomes activated for 75 seconds. For the next 75 seconds, if they're hit, they get the endurance status effect. That is what this should say. But instead, after that, it says they gain the endurance status effect up until the killer hits them or is fully healed again. And then if the survivor is healed or hit again, medication helps goes on, or MD helps goes on a 90-second cooldown. So if a survivor is healed and they get hit within 75 seconds, they'll get the endurance status effect if they get hit again. That is terrible. And let me tell you why it's terrible. Gank Squad, SWF, and more importantly, syringes. And also that perk that breaks the purse, or you can give your healthy state to another survivor, but you get the broken status effect. It's like, that's not for the people. What the hell is it called? We the people? Something like that. I don't know. Whatever that perk is. It's one of the female characters, like Nancy or something, that has it. I don't remember the name of it at the moment. So the only thing you're gonna have here is one survivor well, multiple survivors running this. This is essentially a super heavily extended borrowed time, which doesn't make any type of sense. Borrowed time gives you more than enough seconds as an anti-tunneling perk to allow you to do a multitude of things, or you can even give up your borrowed time by protecting the person that unhooks you, which you should do if they take the time out of their day to unhook you. So, what are you going to do with 75 seconds of that activation? Because the killer's not going to know you have it unless you openly try to body block them and you stand there after getting hit one time. Then the killer's going to kind of know, well, if I hit this guy again, they're just going to run off into the sunset. That particular perk scaled with any other perk like Medal of Man or even Soul Guard in select few cases would be completely disgusting, especially with the survivor friends. So I would definitely say no. Medicaid or MD helps needs to be redone and make it a lot more sensible. Again, low amount of posts. At least you did look around some before you started doing things like that. But, the killer. That is too close to a offensive word, so I'm going to change that to the Blood Lord. Sure. The Blood Lord can submerge into blood and go into the ground and move around from there. While in blood, she can see survivors running with a blue ore and is on top of here or her on the ground. While also in the blood, her movement speed is decreased. You must press the button, blah, blah, blah. There are multiple abilities. Grab, teleportation, and the bloodhounds. Okay, so just off the bat, I see complete 20 continuous skill checks in order to escape the blood. Do you know how long that is going to be to get 20 skill checks? It's not even that it's hard, it's that it's going to take an extremely long amount of time. Also, the blood can just hook you now instead of the actual killer. No. No, 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 no. Teleportation, I mean, it's kind of obvious. It's almost basically like the Demogorgons teleport, except for it uses fountains. So I guess it'd be more like the TVs and Sadako and everything like that. There's only 4 fountains, though. Good luck getting the location on them. Special ability Bloodhounds. Bloodhounds run around the map. Cool. You can make them come to you. They automatically find survivors with controlled AI. Oh, good lord. I'm gonna hop to the perks and I'm gonna get out of this. I'm already 10 minutes past the hour that I was gonna spend on this, and this post just ain't. It's not appealing to me. I want to hop on Dead by Daylight and get a couple of good games out, or at least decent games out, because this is not top quality content. This is not top quality review because the creator didn't spend a lot of time doing this or making this. And like I said, if a creator doesn't spend a long time making something, I'm not going to spend a long time reviewing it. The only exception is the last post that I did before this. Yes, it took a long time for them to look up all of this and copy and paste it into a format like they did. However, it wasn't their work. It was multiple different people's works, copy and pasted and brought together to create something. And not credited to any of them. One of the reasons why I just skip past those. Perks. Hex, cutting bark. See, I thought these were survivor perks because of where they're situated at. When a survivor is working on a generator and 4 people begin to work on it. When a survivor is working on the generator and 4 people begin to work on it, that's 5 people. Also, there are few and far between rare generator situations in the map, if there are any left, that 4 people can work on a singular generator. You want to know why Dead by Daylight or the devs made it to where 4 people can't work on a singular generator? Because it's inefficient as fuck. You are generally saving an extra 3 seconds, no, 5 seconds by the end of that for 4 people to be working on a generator. On the same generator. It'll be done quick, but that last person is a waste of fucking space when it comes to that generator. Should never really have any more than 2 people, and that's if you have supporting perks for the 2 of you to be working on generators. Anyway, this perk will never be used ever. You're never going to have 4 survivors on one generator. Ever. One survivor is generally going to be with the killer, and the other survivors are going to be working on other generators trying to get everything done. Even in a 3-gen situation, if you have 4 survivors working on a generator, what the hell is the killer doing? You know what I'm saying? What's the killer doing? What are they patrolling? What are they going after? Like, what are they doing with their lives? Are they just AFK and saying, fuck it? So, no. That is an obvious no. And if you would have taken the time to learn the game and look things up before you made this post, you would know that 4 survivors on a singular generator, or 5 in this case, is never going to happen. Also, doing the continuous skill checks thing that Sadako just released into the Dead by Daylight pool. Stop pulling from that, people. It's new. It just got introduced into the game. Continuous skill checks for generators. There's continuous skill checks ruins and glyphs, but there's not a continuous skill check generator until Sadako came out. Leave her functionality of her perks and everything like that. Leave her to her uniqueness for the moment. Stop trying to pull from something that's new because it's interesting at the time. Try to make something of your own that's unique. And again, you have 4 different people, or 5 in that case, hitting all of these back-to-back skill checks. If any of them misses a skill checks, they're losing 6% of their progress. On top of that, it says more progress than usual, so they're losing 9% of their progress per missed skill check. Terroristic, I would prefer territorial defense instead of that word, but yeah, that defense. I'm not going to say that because of the things that are going on today in today's world. But when you damage a generator, this perk becomes active for 80 seconds. Why 80 seconds? That is literally the entire duration of how long it takes to do a gen. Whenever a survivor works on it, they become exposed until they stop working on the generator. That's useless. It's Dragon's Grasp, except for it does nothing. It's all a fear tactic. I become exposed until I stop working on the generator. So, unless the killer has some sort of inherent ability to knock my ass out before I either press the run button if I have that set or release R1, then what's the point? And in that time, they're going to pick me up off the generator anyway. It's called a generator pickup. Now, I mean, range attacks and things like that, I guess you could technically catch a survivor off guard if they're working, out in the open with an exposed status effect and you happen to sneak up on them with like a huntress or something. But I mean, well, no, because she makes a noise when she's charging up. It's going to be very rare, and you have a very slight timer that you'll be able to get a survivor off the generator. The only person I could really see this coming and being any type of help for is a Ghostface. Ghostface is one of those almost completely quiet killers that you can walk up to survivors on generators and possibly get that exposed down. But like I said, it's easier to just pull them from the generator than just doing a lunge attack and trying to get it exposed down. You know what I'm saying? Just pull them off of it. And that's all this is doing, is making it to where if you go for a pull attack and it fails, it essentially downs them. That's all this perk is there for. If the pool don't work for Dead by Daylight, at least my hit's going to down you and you're going to be done. That's it. It gives you a little bit more play so you can use a lunge attack on a survivor at a generator and get the down, etc., etc. That's it. Very few killers can take advantage of it, and you have to be very smart about what you're doing to try to pull that particular perk off. Useless. Shouldn't be implemented into the game because, I mean, it's just a check that ensures something to happen, which in most parts should, but I mean, there's latency. If that person legitimately gets off the generator and latency keeps them on the generator and they get grabbed, it's just as shitty as if you go for a grab and the grab doesn't happen because it shows that that person moved as you're going for the grab animation. Lag goes both ways. So, no, not for the TD. Freedoms are shut. When stunned by a survivor, this perk activates. When stunned again, the survivor loses a health state. No, because all you're going to do is have killers throwing themselves at pallets, getting stunned. So, take a health state. Like a Scratch Mirrors Michael Meyer would go to fucking town with that shit. You run after them, you make them waste all of these fucking pallets and shit. As soon as they take that health state on that second pallet, which you can stack that up with a myriad of different perks to make the pallet just automatically break, like with the spirits perk, and then decrease your stun time and all of that with another assortment of perks, and have damn near instant downs. All right. 16,000 posts. Let's see. Okay, full disclosure, but this isn't proper feedback, but I really, really like that you used modern design philosophy in the perks and only tiered one aspect of the perks rather than every numerical value increasing per tier. That is something that I've seen that I've been harping about for so long that I just let go nowadays. is the multiple tiers. And this guy does bring up an important point. I used to harp about it all the time. You shouldn't tier every single value that's part of a perk. And I've seen it happen a lot of times, and trust me, every time I see it, I shake my head at it. But generally nowadays, the perk is such dog shit that there's other pressing matters than saying, hey, you shouldn't be tiering haste speed and the amount of speed or time that it lasts. You shouldn't be multi-tiering things. Generally, the haste speed is, like you see, 14% or something crazy like that. And I'm like, there's other pressing matters to attend to, and they're going to have to go back and redo the perk anyway. So I am aware of what this person's talking about, and I still notice it. I just stop harping over it because the majority of people that makes perks makes that same mistake. Uh, yeah, grab being doo doo. It's penalties way too long, etc., etc. Because once you're grabbed, you're stuck there for all of those skill checks and all of that. And like he said, if they're already injured, it should just down them. It shouldn't automatically hook them. Oh boy. I said I need to get through this and added an extra 10 minutes to everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the stream, restart the stream, and we're going to start playing some Dead by Daylight. So, yippee ki